the Manongs, or aldermen, in the Filipino language of Ilocano, were recruited from the Philippines to work in the United States.
On December 20th, 1906, they came to work in the sugarcane plantations in Hawaii.
And in the 1920s and the 30s, about 100,000 Filipinos, mostly men, either came from Hawaii or directly from the Philippines to mostly work in the agricultural fields of California.
Or in the canneries of Alaska.
A lot of them were under 20 years old.
All of them promised to send money back to their families.
Or send new American-style clothes.
Some promised to get an education.
A promise that a lot of them didn't get to keep because of the constant need to find jobs, despite the discrimination they met.
The Filipino race was the most worthless, unscrupulous, shiftless, semi-barbarian that's ever stepped foot onto our shores.
Was written in a California newspaper in the 1930s.
Anti-miscegenation laws prevented Filipinos from marrying white women, so a lot of the Manongs were not allowed to have families.
Since this was during the Depression, these Manongs were often beat up and accused of stealing jobs from Americans.
So a lot of these men started to work for sometimes less than $1 a day.
Less than $1 a day to work in 100-degree weather.
Sometimes for 10 hours at a time, stooped over cutting asparagus.
Breathing in the kind of dust that would line a Manong's socks.
A Manong's lungs.
A Manong's dignity.
And sometimes the field had no bathrooms.
So they just went.
And when they were thirsty,
There would be one tin cup.
One tin cup that was wrapped in dirty clothes.
wrapped in dirty clothes, hid underneath the shade, so that when it was time for a drink,
When it was time for a drink of water, each worker, up to 40 to 50 men, would use that cup.
That single cup used to refresh himself.
or herself,
And they kept working.
And kept working.
kept working.
Working.
Together.
I'll follow the fields back to where you are, where you grew all your dreams from afar. With the strength and the courage in a land not your own, you stood up for justice to make this your home. When you follow the field, dreams were all that you ever knew. When you left home without a clue about this land paved with streets of gold, but believing in everything you were told about being free, about having equality without running away. You stood your ground, fought back and stayed. So I'll follow the fields back to where you are, where you grew all your dreams from afar. With the strength and the courage in a land not your own, you stood up for justice to make this your home. When we follow the fields, brown, your hands cracked into the soil in heat that felt like your blood would boil. Inside, your heart trembled on its own, but in fighting together, you always known about being free, about having equality without running away. You stood your ground, fought back and stayed. Now the hour has come to remember all that you've done. You have given us all that you had, and it's our turn to pay tribute back. So I'll follow the fields back to where you are, where you grew all your dreams from afar. With the strength and the courage in a land not your own, you stood up for justice to make this your home. When you follow the fields, I'll follow the fields. We'll follow the fields.